Hello, my name is Autumn Brown, and I am a researcher with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program at Oklahoma State. And for our Art, Activism, and Education Oral History Project, I'm here with Dr. Stevie Johnson, Doctor of You. I'm here today on June 29th, 2022 with Dr. Stevie Johnson, Doctor of You, to talk about his music and his art throughout the Tulsa community. So thanks so much, Stevie, for talking with me today. And let's just start with like a young Stevie. What were you like as a child?
I was pretty active, kind of all over the place. I was raised by my mom. She actually was probably my first hip hop scholar, but she didn't know that she was a scholar. I think she was a hip hop feminist before the term came about. I think I was 2 or 3, and she got me a boombox, and I remember just taking like cassette tapes and just like recording over it, like rapping, just trying to talk, like dancing, yeah, I was just really active, really involved. I loved learning. I attribute my thirst for learning with my first grade teacher. Her name was Janice Ford. That was my only black teacher I ever had in K-12.
Wow.
And I'm working on a project now called Tidy, named after my mom actually. And I was kind of doing these interviews, like oral history interviews, and I got in contact with some former teammates, some former classmates of my mom, and my first grade teacher, who I hadn't seen since first grade. And it's like the first time in 25 years I saw her, and it's like we ended off right when first grade stopped. And like I remember everything she taught. She would always say every morning, she would sing to us. She would say, if you want to be somebody, you want to go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention. And that's just what I knew, like growing up. Fast forward, like that's where Sister Act 2 came into play. That's where she got it from. So she was like a very like seasoned teacher, and she was always trying to find ways to connect with her students. So she started incorporating like hip hop, pop culture into the classroom. I didn't know at the time because I was so young, but I think maybe a year or two later I saw the movie, and I just connected the two together. But yeah, hip hop has just kind of been there. Even the first album I ever heard, my mom allowed me to listen to was Miseducation of Lauryn Hill and Tupac's Greatest Hits. So like, in relation to like inception into hip hop like culture, like those were the first 2 albums, probably like the age of like 9 or 10.
Wow.
So yeah, like it's always been education, it's always been community, facilitating, opportunities not only for myself but for other people. And just, freedom dreaming, like just really trying to find ways of looking at the world through my hip hop lens, and how do I find ways of freedom through that. So but yeah, like young Stevie was just young, wild, and free, but like education and music was always at the epicenter.
I know your mom means so much to you. I mean, this album Tidy that you are doing in her honor, and just seeing how much you like put her on your social media, like I can tell that she was so formative.
Yeah.
So you said that she was like a hip hop feminist before it was a term. Can you kind of like unpack why you say that?
So John Morgan talks about like fucking with the grays, and I find myself in spaces where like hip hop is seen as like really cool, or like it's just one of those like elective pieces of like of the academy, or the literature that people should be consuming. But for me, it's always been like, hip hop is everything to me. And so my mom didn't have like a traditional education, so the way that she raised me was through like the idea of basketball and music, and like merging those two, and just the conversations we had was just very authentic, very transparent conversation. Like nothing was ever I never felt like I could not talk to my mom about something. And so I think, fucking with the grades is like you are wrestling with like who you are becoming versus like the trauma that you're trying to let go. And it's like in between those things, there's so many different factors that can affect you. And I think, being a scholar and recognizing how hip hop at times is homophobic and misogynistic and transphobic and all these different isms, but at the same time, the gray area of hip hop is like it is a liberatory practice. It is culture. It is how a lot of people make sense of the world, and I think a lot of times people put the negative before the positive, and I think I've always looked at hip hop as a way is, yeah, it's not perfect, it has its flaws, just like any other institution that is in America. We live in a capitalistic society, but hip hop has done something for me that I can't negate, and I think at that point, my mom had just allowed me the space. I mean, I didn't think I was going to be a hip hop scholar or anything, but she gave me the space to imagine what I could do with the things that I have at my disposal, and just allow me to be creative, and never said that any idea that I had was like stupid or like far fetched. It was just like, have you thought about this? And just really just made me like unpack so many different things. So yeah, I think it's just having those Black mothers who just know. Like it's the discernment, it's the intuition, it's the experience, and it's the beauty of listening to their bodies and letting me know exactly like who I can become. So yeah, like she was Joan Morgan before Joan Morgan, Bettina Love before Bettina Love. Like she was doing the work for me when I didn't even know.
Yeah. And I think I love that because I mean, how many Black mothers out here were like doing all of this like scholarly academic work without there being a name put on it, and then it just kind of like goes without recognition because you don't have certain letters behind your name or certain institutions backing you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It just. I mean, I just know for a fact those two women, my first grade teacher and my mother, like. Not having those two there and pushing me in certain areas, like through my like education trajectory, I wouldn't be talking to you. It would be no PhD. It would be no space program, no FELA. Like, so it's just one of those things where like I gotta, as a 32 going on 33 hip hop scholar. Sometimes you just gotta reflect on like where you came from, particularly when you get the degree. Like it's kind of like you work so hard to get to this point, and it's like, damn, it's here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not what I expected. Okay, what do I do now? Like, and so yeah, it just gave me time to really think and like sit with like, who am I and what do I want to become? And also like, now that I have my son too, it's like, okay, how do I carve out space for him to like see his creativity, and particularly in this new Web3 space that's being, developed. So yeah, it's just like passing a different type of tradition down. A lot of times I feel like it's trauma that's being passed down, and I'm trying to pass down something else.
Yeah. So at what point did you like gravitate to hip hop in a way where you're like, this is gonna be my life?
Definitely undergrad. Probably 2009, 2010. I just had a hard time adjusting to Oklahoma from Texas and being at a predominantly white campus with 35,000 people. It was just, and I'm an introvert. It's just like, it was just a lot. But I knew I was supposed to be there. I just needed to figure out, my own place. And, I just started picking up DJing. Like, nobody taught me, like, I literally just picked up a laptop.
What? Wait, hold up. You weren't formally trained to DJ?
I'm not formally trained. So what happened is my roommate at the time had this software called Virtual DJ. So it's a software where you don't need turntables. It's literally just laptop, and it's called cue points. You put your cue points on the song and you can mix just straight off a laptop. And that's the only thing I had at my disposal because I didn't have money for like turntables and mixers, all this stuff. And what's crazy is I called my mom and I was like, yo, I think I'm about to start, I think it was my sophomore year in undergrad. I called my mom and I was like, yo, I think I'm about to start DJing. And she just like laughed and just hung up the phone. And I called her back and I was like, yo, I'm like serious. And I think for her, it was more like, I can't even get you to say 5 words like in public. Like, how are you going to become a DJ? And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get you. And it was all like jokes and stuff, but got the software from my roommate, and I just started just looking at it, see what it does, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. It literally took me like a month, like to figure it out.
Oh my gosh.
And how it works is traditionally when you DJ, you see DJs with headphones, and they have those on while the song is playing because they're already getting ready to mix the next song. So they can hear it through the mixer. Well, I didn't have a mixer, so I had to memorize like the parts that I wanted to bring in. So I'm literally, it's like an exam. Like I got my cues of like when I want to bring in Wipe Me Down, when I want to bring in Ice Cream Paint Job, and I had to remember. So imagine at a party, like I have headphones for show, but like I can't use them. And like literally for 2 years, like I just built my business up and finally got my equipment. But like that was a moment I was like, yeah, because had I not had DJing, I probably would have left OU.
Really?
I just hated it that much.
Wow. I'm just gonna go ahead and put on record. The first time I heard you DJ was at the garage of Norman. You had like a day. Was it like Thursday nights?
Yeah,
was
Thursday
your days to DJ?
It was.
And my friend Misha, because she went to OU, every Thursday night we was at the garage. Stevie, I was like, who is this DJ? Like it was so lit. And you had that burger place popping on Thursday nights. And that was like my first introduction to you as a DJ. Like, who is this guy? Do you even remember?
I remember Thursdays. Yeah,
was that before you had DJ equipment and stuff?
No, I had it then. It was probably when I just got it. Got it. But yeah, like I think 09, because I was just really in a like not really a dark space, but just like all I did was go to class. Go to class, work out, that's it. And I was just seeing like everybody else just involved on campus. I was like, that stuff ain't for me. And it wasn't until that, and then like actually like DJing for organizations, it just kind of, everything else just kind of took off from there. So it really was like saving grace, like for sure.
It was a saving grace, I think, for a lot of people. No, and I don't even mean that to be funny, but I just think of like, I just remember how it felt like a community at the garage. I didn't go to OU. I didn't know anybody there. But the way it felt, like the way your music was like bringing people together in this like basic burger place, right? And for me as a Black woman at predominantly white campuses, it was like the one place I could go and see Black people, hear Black music, and not feel judged for dancing to Black music in this space in my Black body. And so I think that like, even today, what your DJing does, it makes me as a Black person feel like I'm at home. You know what I'm saying? And we'll get to AOHRP because I'm still reeling off of the mix you did.
I mean, even Juneteenth. Juneteenth is like probably the time of the year I get the most anxious because like I understand what Juneteenth means. I know what Juneteenth meant when I was in Texas growing up. And I know now what it's like in Tulsa, and to be able to, of all the DJs that's in Oklahoma, particularly in Tulsa, I'm not from here, like, let me go back. Tulsa's a very territorial place.
Completely.
i.e. North Tulsa is very territorial.
Completely.
And so the fact that I'm not a Tulsa native, I'm able to be up there and like be given the opportunity to like liberate through song, like it's something I don't take for granted, like at all. But I also think it just goes back to why I'm so adamant about like my mother, because like as I'm DJing through. It's like I'm channeling her because like the music that I'm playing, like I didn't get there from like a top 100 list. Like my mom gave me these records,
Yeah.
and I can remember when and where in the conversations in relation to these records. So yeah, it's way bigger. Like yeah, we'll talk about ARA too, but like it's all about like I have an opportunity to. I don't. The people that are in this space, I have no clue what these people are experiencing, but I know people are going through some shit. So the fact that we can come to this space and y'all can just like let it out and release, like that's the perfect job.
Yeah.
It's the perfect job.
So let's talk a little bit about your experience at OU, because I'm thinking like you went through OU for undergrad and grad school, and by the time you left OU, you owned that space. You did.
I did.
So to hear you talk about like you went through this dark space to the point where you thought about leaving, to literally owning OU, like can you just talk about what that was like the transition? Because I think, and I want you to talk about this because I think as Black people, we all kind of go through that transition going to predominantly white institutions, right? It's very traumatic.
Yeah.
And OU is a very special place. And so can you kind of just talk about like what that was like, those feelings?
Norman is very different. Like it's just different. Yeah, I just think it was I was asking for community. I was really like I wanted it so bad. Because I was becoming a man. Like I was becoming a man and didn't have a father to like let me know what I was like getting into. So like it was the best time of my life, even though it was a chaotic city that I was in. And I think again, DJing like protected me from a lot of things because like I knew exactly where I was going to be every week. There was I didn't have any idle time like to think about anything else. It was like, yo, school stuff, take care of your health, and then DJing, get this bread. Like that was it. And I think the ability to, because I was seeking community, but it was like I had the necessary tools to get the community that I was looking for, and I just had to use it. And I think I just got to a point where I just got tired of feeling sorry for myself. And I was like, if there's some things I can't control, I can't control these racist people here. I can't control how many white people are here. I just can't. I can't control how much it costs here. But what I can control is I make good grades, stay out of trouble, and like make the most of these experiences that I'm getting the opportunity to do, which is showcase my talent. So, yeah, once people found out that I was nice, it just kind of felt like, okay, yo, we want to support you. It wasn't like, oh, you have this amazing talent, we want to use you. It was more like, yo, we need you.
Yeah.
Like we really, really need you. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think for anybody, but me in particular, when I was contemplating leaving, like those were the confirmations, like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything just kind of took off from there, and I never allowed my ego to get in the way. It was just like, yo, I'm doing this for family, like community, and it was just some of the best times ever.
Yeah.
Like to this day, I'm like, man, I just wish I could redo undergrad all over again because it was that dope. But I think not necessarily regret, because I'm currently here where I'm at today. I was afraid of like pursuing DJing full time after undergrad. Like I just that's all I wanted to do, but it just felt disingenuous out of state tuition. Can't really tell mom, like, no, I'm not gonna be this big lawyer or doctor, but I want to be a DJ. And it's crazy, like, I just told her this right after, like, the Harvard thing. And she said, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me that's what you wanted to do? And so I told her why. She was like, it didn't matter. Like, I just wanted you to be happy. And I think that's, like, those conversations are very different in certain spaces. Like, for certain people, it's like, no, you go to school, you get this degree
Right.
or these different options. And that's what, I was thinking my mom was, thinking too, but that wasn't the case. So it's one of those things where, like, I just definitely enjoyed my time at OU. I mean, I DJed everywhere, not just OU, but like Langston and UCO and OSU, and I was in Missouri, like Big 12 conferences. I was in Texas. I was at A&M. I was all over the place, and like I just wish I could redo it all over again. Yeah, it was fun.
Well, I have to say, like, the community you seem to have built at OU, I mean, y'all are all doing your thing. I mean, going from, like, not having community to, like, the community you ended up with out of OU, I mean.
Class of 2007 is a special group. And I don't even say that because it's mine, but, like, I mean, Nicole, AJ, I mean,
right. We were just talking about her the other day.
I mean, I saw All American, and they did like a whole like scene about her. Like Caleb Gibb, like these are just like dynamic people that I like literally went to school with. Like, so yeah, it's beautiful. It really is. It is beautiful, and I think it's more than anything. I think it's just a testament to like. It's a testament to like how intentional I was in like loving like my blackness. Like I was really intentional, and I don't even think hindsight with the whole dissertation, everything. It's just like even though I wasn't thinking during that time, like I've always been doing this like this blackness, like this hatred for anti-blackness work, like through music. Like it's always been there. It's just now it just became like this educational thing that kind of took off. So yeah, I think that's the beauty of it that I enjoyed the most as I reflect. Is like it was always there. I just didn't see it.
Yeah. So you finished OU, your undergrad, and what did you major in undergrad?
Health and exercise science.
Okay. Yeah. And then do you immediately start your PhD?
No, so when I was contemplating the DJing full time, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And then at the last minute, literally like the last semester, before I'm about to graduate, I'm like, I can't do it. But then I was like, okay, what's next? And like, no lie, I was like, yo, I'm just gonna do a master's education because I feel like it's the easiest thing. And it'll give me enough time to figure out what my next steps would be. So literally no education experience. Just was like, look, I ain't going back home. I'm not ready to go back home. I don't know what's next. I'm not gonna use this degree. So yeah, I just literally went into master education and finished that up in 2 years. And that's when I really started to explore hip hop and education. And then that's when I started working at UCO, who was the coordinator and the officer of diversity inclusion. And then that's when like shit just got crazy. I was asked to oversee the Black Male Initiative program there, and just having a conversation with them guys, and like a lot of them have already graduated. One of them actually has their doctorate now too. So yeah, it's just like being in that space. By far, some of the best students I've ever like been around. So, but yeah, I went straight into a master's program, graduated 2013, started working at UCO, took 2 years off.
Oh.
Took 2 years off, and then one of my mentors was like, yo, like PhD. I was like, absolutely not. Like, not even a little bit. And he was like, yo, I'll pay for it. So that's the only reason.
Wow.
It's the only reason.
The
only reason.
Okay.
So started PhD 2015 and finished in 2019.
So one thing you mentioned was like hip hop and education. What did you kind of gather from how hip hop is an educational tool?
Yeah, I was not a fan of how people were utilizing hip hop. It was always hip hop as a tool, hip hop as a tool, hip hop as a tool, which I get, but it's also like, what type of tool in relation to hip hop are you doing? And it was always, oh, we're gonna bring in poetry, we're gonna bring in Tupac into the classroom, or we're going to analyze his lyrics. And I'm like, there's way more to do than that. And so for me, I was like, it's about the application of it. It's about, so many people are theorizing about hip hop and education. Like, we're doing these ethnographic studies on students. And I was like, that's cool, but like, I never feel like I hear the voices of the students. So like, how can I put them at the forefront? And so that was the whole premise of the dissertation album. It was like access and hearing firsthand accounts of like the participants. And so that's literally where it came about. Like, it's like, yo, we're gonna do the interviews, we're gonna do all the stuff that the IRB tells us to do, all that stuff. But like, there's an opportunity to create something that will reach way more people than a dissertation in our rate that just sits on the shelf.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, it was a lot of back and forth of people not understanding the vision, people being afraid of it for whatever reason, and just always just feeling like I had to prove why I wanted to do certain things. So, but yeah, it's always just been like, hip hop is a tool, like hip hop is culture, and like, as someone who's lived with it, how can I be ethical in my way of articulating what this lens is doing, not only for me, but for a group of people, like an entity. So, yeah, that was the whole justification for that.
And I have to say, one of the students that was in your space program, Daquan Urban, you had a remarkable impact on him. Like, I saw him in high school as a high school student, and to see how transformed he was after working with you and with the other men associated with the space project, it's like he's living proof that like what you did with hip hop education and the space project had tremendous impact on young Black boys who without it, who knows what the trajectory of their life would have looked like. And so I can definitely say without a doubt, like, I've seen living proof of like your impact. And now, I mean, he's written like a book, he's going to school, and I can't say that he would have had that had it not been for your mentorship and seeing a Black man like you know what I'm saying, who was unapologetically himself, but also had his shit together.
Yeah, I wonder if he remembers it. So I remember Daquan coming into my office probably 2018, either 2017, 2018. And he wasn't a student at the time. He was a prospective student. So he just came to the campus. And I didn't know him from a campaign. And I remember just hearing him talk, and I'm big on like nonverbal, like body language, just like how people, conduct themselves. And my discernment was just like, yo, this kid has something. And so he came into my office and we started talking, and he was like, man, I don't have a GPA, like ACT score, like, but I just need a chance. That's all he said, I need a chance. And I think I'm bringing this up because I'm reminded of like responsibility. And, you know, when people get in certain spaces, they become a part of the status quo, or they feel like they're in positions of power. So like whatever they say goes. And I was like, you know, this is an opportunity to really make some change for somebody. So I contacted the admissions office. I was like, yo, we need this student. I said we can put him on whatever probationary period that needs to happen, but like let's give him a chance. And so literally my music, hip hop, education, access, community is all in relation to my work too. So like the way that I build community is like I always am present and visible, so people see me and they know my intentions. And they know that when I ask for something, it's like it's really something. Mm-hmm. So for me to talk to admissions, to talk to the vice president, like just give him an opportunity. Black Male Summit came around and he was there, and literally during lunch we like gave him a letter, he opened it, and he was able to read like, yo, I'm coming to college. And so like I remember that day like it wasn't like it was yesterday. Yeah. And yeah, just to see the trajectory. But I think the other piece of it is like I had an impact on him. He also had an impact on me. So going back, all I ever wanted to do was DJ, but I didn't. Like I was like scared, like still trying to figure out life. And I met UCO and he's there, and I'm about to leave, like to finish the dissertation. And he says, he said, it would be a fool for you to not go hard with this music. So it would be a fool to you and to God to not go hard with this. And you know, it's always perceived as like me as a mentor, a big brother, always giving, but like he poured into me in that moment because I took a leap of faith, quitting the job, trying to finish dissertation, trying to find the next play. Like I got a wife, I got a kid, so but for him to say that that was the encouragement for me going to that library every day, trying to finish that dissertation. Like I just gotta go, I just gotta finish it. Like yeah, it sucks being in these four walls and I'm looking at this screen looking at me and this feedback, and I don't understand what you're talking about. Matter of fact, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, yeah, it was those moments that kept me going. But at the core, it's the culture, it's the hip hop culture, it's the relationships of just like being there for each other when we truly matter. And yeah, like Daquan is a prime example of that too.
I love that. I think that's so dope. I remember the Black Male Summit and Black Male Initiative, and I just think it's really great to have like these spaces where Black men can be vulnerable, but also be poured into, because I think a lot of times like Black men are like faced with like, I've got to be the tough, like I've got to, you know, be the one to stand up for everybody, but like who stands up for you? You know what I'm saying? Like when does the mask ever come off? When do you ever feel comfortable to be vulnerable and to like melt if you need to melt, and feel safe that someone's going to like catch you and not just let you like completely die off there? Like, so I think that
is different for me because again, everything goes back to my mom. Like the ability to carve out space for other Black men to feel like that they can talk about that. Those are skills that I learned from my mom, just on how to talk to people, to engage, and like, yo, this space is for us. And like it's a safe space, but it's also a critical space. Mm-hmm. Like we're going to challenge and push each other. And so I think the more that I'm having those conversations and letting people know, like, yeah, I got this terminal degree, but I'm still trying to figure out life. Like, I think people see that, and you walk it, you model it, it all just comes into play.
Yeah. So can you just tell us about the space project? I mean, like, what was it?
Yeah, so it came out of the dissertation. So the dissertation was looking at particularly Black male college students. They have the lowest retention and graduation rates, like of any population. And I wanted to interrogate, okay, why are black men leaving. And I was just like, it's not because they're academically unprepared. Like, that's not it. It's because of the racial environment that they encounter each and every day. So I was looking at these anti-black experiences that these students were encountering, and I was like, how do we create an album to express and articulate these experiences for these participants, but also give prospective students like a bird's eye view of like what they're about to experience, and their parents too, because you know a lot of the work was like expectations. Like I go to college, I gotta succeed. Like I have to graduate. People are depending upon me, and I think there's a lot of that of like, oh, I go to college, I'm automatically successful. When in reality, like, man, there's just so much stuff that comes with that. And so yeah, I wanted to interrogate that. But what happened was we did the dissertation, we collected the data, and then afterwards it was like, so this is it? Like, that was a conversation with the group, and I was still in like research mode. So I was like, what would you like to see? And they were like, yo, we wanna turn this into a collective. And so that's where the space program came about. So there's a Tribe Called Quest record, an album. We got it from here. Thank you for your service. And there's a song on there called Space Program. And it says, there ain't a space program for niggas. And so Think Progress, who's one of the poets in the group, was like, we should call ourselves a space program because we're making space for niggas. And I wish I had a picture of the logo. And so the logo is like the TSP for the space program, but it's kind of like this curve, and like the end of the T and the S and the P are kind of like, it's not filled in all the way. And we did that intentionally because it said like, we're predominantly cis, heteronormative like folks in the group. And we're like, yo, if we're not having conversations, if we're not providing content or opportunities for all black people to be free, then we're really just being some hotep niggas type shit. So yeah, like that's where the space program came, and like we're still active. Like we're actually going to Denver next year, like Metropolitan School of Denver. We're going out there to not only present but perform. Like,
oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's pretty big. So that was formed in 2019, and we've been going ever since, even after this station.
And it really changed the game in Oklahoma. I mean, you were everywhere. Everyone was talking about this dissertation album because we're in Oklahoma, right? So people,
the expectations are very low.
very low. But then to do it on the scale and on the level at which you did it, I think it really like set a bar.
Assumption without questions, conjecture without fact, and a doctoral student posture without programmatic guidelines, making it adequate.
That's from the space program?
No, that was from my original chair.
Whoa.
So when I originally said that I wanted to do this as an album, I said I would write the traditional dissertation, right, which I did. But I was like, I want to do it in the form of an album. And for whatever reasons, they came back and wrote a letter. They resigned as my chair, wrote a letter and said assumption without question, conjecture without fact, and poor knowledge of programmatic guidelines fall below a doctoral student posture. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what was said.
Do you know, I think that's the problem in the academy. You have these dinosaurs who are like, I did it this way, so you have to do it that way without even being...
I think what made it worse was because someone looked like me. Black
That's
man.
what I get for assuming.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this had to be like an old black man.
Yeah. No.
What?
Yeah.
But you know what? You just mentioned like how people get these terminal degrees and get these positions of power, and then all of a sudden they're no longer part of the struggle. And I feel like that sometimes happens with us. It's like, oh, well, I'm better than you. And it's like, no.
I think it was more control. I think it was also a lack of understanding, or an unwillingness to not understand.
Yeah.
Because I think they were so focused on, I think you're trying to make it to a cool dissertation. In reality, I'm like, do you understand where the world is going?
Right.
Do you understand people's attention spans? Do you understand, now, it's a pandemic, so the traditional ways of educating are different. What is teaching?
Yeah.
All these different things. And, again, that could have been another situation that, took me out. That was probably the most depressed I've been.
I mean, that's, yeah.
But again, hip hop was there. So it was a pilot study that I did prior to the dissertation with some of these participants too. And we went to my first AERA, 2017.
In New York?
San Antonio.
Oh.
The year before. Yeah. So it's San Antonio, New York, Toronto, and then we were all.
It was virtual the next year. Yeah.
So San Antonio. So I drove, and the only reason why I drove was because one of my homies going to AERA. I was like, what is that? Sound like another expensive, they said, yo, they got this hip hop SIG. I was like, what is a hip hop SIG? I was like, it's a hip hop special interest group. And she started naming the people that I had been reading.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm going. All time. So this is the situation with my chair happened. He wrote a letter, sent it to the entire department. So no one was willing to take me as a student. Because you gotta think about politics and dynamics. He was a full professor, associate dean. Everyone else is junior faculty.
Oh, wow.
So the dynamics of I'm sending this letter out on letterhead, I'm sending to the department. It looks like, the student did something. So when I'm talking to people because if they resign, no one is obligated to pick me up as a student. So I literally have to meet all these people. Hey, will you be my chair? No.
This is starting to piss me off, Stevie. Honestly, that you had to go through this.
So I had to get the grad college involved. And I just told them, yo, I'm not quitting my program. I put 2 years in, give me somebody.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is, just give me somebody. They did, and just kept it going. But I told myself, I'm going to San Antonio. And it was just like undergrad all over again. I had my research on a flash drive. And I was first, I literally drove from Norman to San Antonio. The first session I went to was Christopher Emden. Chris didn't know, right. He didn't know me from a can of paint. I was literally the last person that he talked to after his session. And I said, Dr. Emden, such, I'm in Oklahoma. I need help. I didn't even tell him what.
I need help.
And he said, I got you. Didn't know me from nobody. Said, I got you. And he ended up being a special member on my committee. Ended up finishing, still in 4 years, dissertation and the album. Went to ASH, dissertation of the year. So it just, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I almost want to send a letter on letterhead to that guy.
What's crazy is, and I think this is important. I called him maybe 3 months ago, 2 or 3 months ago. And we can talk offline where he's at now. But I called him because I felt obviously with the work with FILA, with just kind of how I've been moving in spaces, I knew increase or something was coming, and it's still coming for me, but I didn't want to have any excess baggage, any pain, not necessarily pain, but more anger or rage towards people who I didn't need to give it to in the first place. So I was like, yo, I'm ready to meet. I'm ready to talk to you. And we talked. And what I've come to understand is language and communication is everything. Because this is what happened. The situation was, I said, are you still invested in being my advisor in relation to the dissertation album? And the reason why I was asking, because he just became full professor, associate dean. And you know how it is when it comes to Black faculty or just faculty or staff, that students
Yeah.
Everybody gravitates to them. So I knew that. I was like, and in my mind, I wanted to make sure that this person was okay. If I have an issue with like getting in contact with you, or like I need you to sign off on some paperwork, and I can't get in contact with you, like I start to.
It's a problem.
Yeah. So I literally went into this space, and I just didn't change my tone. Like, yo, are you invested in being my advisor? And what I was really trying to say, which I told him, are you okay? Like, are you able to manage these new levels and new position with this hip hop scholar who wants to do a non-traditional dissertation? Because I know if you put your name on this, like, everybody's going to look at you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it was more of like, do you want to be involved in where I'm going? Because like, I'm about to speak this truth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to talk about anti-Black experiences that is going, and it's going to be self-reflected of the academy. Like, do you want to be a part of that? And I didn't have the language back then, but I had it now. And what's crazy is, once I articulated it now, he apologized. Like, I thought you were saying I was inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, like, I wouldn't have actually been my chair in the first place. Mm-hmm. So that's where like the language, the communication, like it could have been something like avoided, like for sure. So, but yeah, I think that's even just kind of bring this all together, like the hip hop, the community piece, access. Part of that is like showing a level of grace and empathy for people, even the people that like have hurt you. Because I don't think outside of me, I don't think nobody could see where I wanted to go with like my work. But now that they do see it, it's just kind of like, oh, like,
dang,
like,
yeah.
But you did, like, you did.
Yeah.
But there's still time left, and like, at the end of the day, he was one of my academic fathers too. So it's just so many different things that come with that.
So you did the space program.
Yep.
And then you go on to produce my favorite album, Invisible Man.
Okay.
I love that album, and I'm just gonna put it on record. I just don't feel like you spent enough time on Invisible Man. You gave it to us.
Blame
and then
MC.
MC.
I'm gonna tell you the whole story.
Please, because that album, I still listen. Riverside. Oh, that is my shit.
Okay, so this is what happened. So, finished dissertation. Dissertation of the year. Nobody trying to hire a dissertation of the year winner. I applied to like 15 jobs.
It's very strange.
So, I just came to Tulsa just to kick it, and ended up bumping elbows with my future boss, and they were like, "Yo, we want to bring you in as manager of education for Woody Guthrie and the Bob Dylan Center." So again, like I'm very honest, like, yo, what y'all want with a 30, at the time I was 30, 31, hip hop head with Woody Guthrie and Bob Dylan. Like, it just didn't make sense. So we finally talked through it, and then that's when I proposed like the Fire Little Africa project. They signed off on it, everything. So as we're planning like the recordings for Fire Little Africa, so this is 2019. I moved to Tulsa in August 2019. And then we had already scheduled to record for FILA in March of 2020. But there were just so many different, so taking the space program project out of the Ivory Tower and then putting it into like a communal space, I had to kind of reconfigure like how those sessions were gonna run. And so we created the model for the recording for FILA, but I was like, man, I still feel a little weary about like, I just don't want to go into it cold turkey. So I was like, I got a couple beats. Let me see if I can create a project and get these artists in the same space and just see how they work together. Mm-hmm. And so that's essentially how Invisible Man was really like a dummy project.
What?
it was a project like to prepare for FILA, to see how people would work in the studio.
Oh wow.
So yeah, and what's crazy is I picked the artists for the records. We recorded in 2 days. recorded in 2 days. I picked the artist, but I didn't tell them what to write about. I was just like, whatever comes to your mind, come to the studio, I'm gonna lay it. And it's like 21 artists on the project, if I'm not mistaken. And we recorded 2 days, and like I'm listening, and it's just one person after another, and it's just all connected. Like, and a lot of these like artists don't know each other. Like, it's first time Steph Simon met Thomas.
Wow.
What's crazy is with the space program, Steph Simon had a relationship with Beatty, and Steph was like, "Man, Beatty's the hardest rapper out of the space program." I was like, "He's one of the hardest." I was like, "But you haven't heard Thomas Who?" He was like, "I don't give a fuck. It's Beatty." We get to the session. Thomas Who gets on the mic, and he's like, "Who is this?" I'm like, "It's Thomas Who." But yeah, like that's essentially. I didn't even have a name for it until after we recorded it, and so I was like, again, I went back to my academic like lens. I was like, okay, I got this work. What I'm gonna call it? What's Oklahoma? What speaks to Oklahoma? What speaks to Black men? What speaks to our sound? And I was like, the only thing I could think of was rap. Like rap just kept coming in my head, and I was like, okay, let me pull this book out. And I started reading, just really like the prologue and his connection between Louis Armstrong and just like how the music made him feel. And I'm like, okay, how can I make the invisible visible? This is what I kept saying. And so I was like, yo, let's just call it Invisible Man. And like the rest is history. Like it just,
Wow.
yeah, it really was like, I'm just gonna test it just to see what happens. But I learned so much. I learned my own like recording process, like mixing, mastering, like attention to details, studio etiquette, like, and again, like creating the space. So like artists come in, it's snacks, it's alcohol, it's weed, like it's everything that they need to like be who they want, who they need to be for this particular moment. And it's like, that's no different from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What barriers can we take away so like Black people can like really thrive in this space that's not designed for us? Like it's the exact same thing. It's a small project, but it's the same values. It's the same thing my mama raised me on. Like just how do you show appreciation, care, attention to detail, like to everything that you do, and people still remember that. So going back to MC, Invisible Man originally was supposed to be released post Fire in Africa. So I recorded it in 2019. I was gonna hold it until 2021. MC comes, who's on one of the songs. He says, "Man, you're being selfish." I was like, and I didn't take offense, but I was like, let's elaborate. He was like, bro, if you recorded Invisible Man in 2 days, like you have way more stuff like to create. He was like, you're a creator. And I think that was the first time I actually kind of heard somebody say like, yo, you're not just a producer, you're not just a facilitator, you're a creator. And I think it was needed because of the time we were in too, like COVID, like the whole fucking world shut down. So even the whole like the series, like being on Zoom and like letting people like that was all just kind of like going with the flow. Like I wanted to get it out. I didn't know how people were going to respond. I couldn't pull up on people. Yeah. So I was like, just use the Zoom and create these conversations around it. One of them that we didn't get to was I had a collaboration with the Ralph Ellison Library because I wanted to have a kind of like a dialogue of like the music with the actual book. But yeah, like just being able to merge those different worlds was and just seeing like I was expecting like when people got on the Zoom to listen, I was like, people were just gonna listen, like and not interact. Like that was my whole thing, like you just gonna listen. Yeah. And then it's like, niggas was just in the chat, just like talking the whole time. And I'm like,
you had to be in the chat.
Yeah. I had to be in it. And my mind was just blown on like how people responded, like truly responded. So yeah, it's MC fault.
And you know what? I am grateful because I remember the moment listening to it on Zoom, and you're right, it was dead in the pandemic. And it was like it gave life, in that moment. It gave life and that moment and after. Yeah. And I remember first listening, like by the end of the album, I was in tears, like after listening to the album. Like I was sitting at the dinner table with my headphones in, eating with my family, and tears streaming down and they're like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Invisible Man." Invisible Man, that's it. Yeah. But I don't know, and I think that's maybe why that album is so dear to me, because it's like, it was really like a light and a really, like, I still think early 2020, I'm like, that was a really dark moment for me. Absolutely. And so that album was such a light, and then after, and I just remember sending it to all my friends, like, Oklahoma, Stevie, like, you know what I'm saying? It was such a moment for like Oklahoma to be on a map. You know what I'm saying? And to this day, I'm like, Uno, dos, tres, cuatro.
Like, what's crazy is it's like, I think what resonated with me is like having certain people know where those samples came from. Mm-hmm. Like people being like, "Yo, this Gil Scott. Like this is Linda Clifford. This is the Temperies." Like it was that like, yo, y'all really like some hip hop heads. Like, and it just made me feel like, okay, I can do this. I can really do this. Yeah.
Stevie, I mean, we're already on an hour, and we haven't even hit feel. I mean, this is just like, I think, an example of just how much of an asset you are to music and to Oklahoma hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, like, I'm grateful, and I think everyone around is grateful, because I really just feel like you really put hip hop on in Oklahoma in this. You know what I'm saying? And so okay, Invisible Man comes out, pandemic. Yep. And then you go straight to Fila.
So, yeah, we record Invisible Man 2019. We're simultaneously planning Fila. Like, so I'm like, coming off the space program, like we still promote that. Like it was a busy time. And so, yeah, recorded that in 2020. January we had our information sessions. So, and the idea of Fila 2 came from Revenge of the Dreamers 3. So J. Cole, Dreamville.
Oh yeah.
He has his label, Revenge of the Dreamers 3. So let me go back. So it's January of 2019. I'm writing my dissertation. I'm not working. And then I see a tweet about Dreamville coming out, Revenge of the Dreamers 3, documentary coming out tomorrow. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be hard. Documentary's like 30 minutes. And it's 150 artists in Atlanta in a studio recording for 10 days. They recorded like over 300 songs. So I'm watching, like, just panning from room to room. Just producers that I know, producers I don't know, artists that I know, artists that I don't know. Just, they invited everybody. Like, yo, come to Atlanta. We here for the next 10 days. Pull up.
Wow.
Like, and if you haven't seen it, you should definitely watch it. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
And I'm watching it, and I'm like hella inspired, but at the same time, I'm like, I've done this. Not at this level, but I've done it. And I can do it again. And so that's when the opportunity with Tulsa came about, and I pitched Dream, Partnering with Africa. I was like, we're just gonna use the same model. So boom, Invisible Man, we recruiting artists, I'm going to people's houses, like, I'm getting phone calls from my boss, like, are you working today? Like, yeah. You're not in the office, that's the point, like, I gotta work. So 2020 top hits, we have 3 information sessions with the artists. And we just go into detail about what Partnering with Africa is. We developed a record label, publishing company, talk about how you're gonna get your music, the rights, the do's and don'ts, studio etiquette, like all this stuff. And in March, we recorded. It was literally probably the last week of like freedom. And what's crazy is my boss called me and was like, are we recording? It's probably like Wednesday. I said, man, if we don't record this week, it won't happen. Like, so they let us finish recording. And as you know, like 5 days, 4 of those days were at the Greenwood Cultural Center. What's crazy is we were originally supposed to be at OETA.
Oh.
So, because OETA has like green screen, green room, like, and it has studio like rooms. So we went to do a walkthrough. And we do the walkthrough, me, producers, engineers. We leave, get a call, and she says, I can't let y'all record here. I was like, can I ask why? And she says, we have a fiduciary responsibility to protect state property. I said, oh, so you expect us to steal? Like, just straight up. Like,
Yeah.
And of course she like, no, but that's what it was. This was a month out from recording. So we didn't have a place. So I'm freaking out. We got all the equipment, we got the artists, everybody signed off.
Yeah.
We have no place to record. So Chris Davis was like, yo, you should hit up Greenwood Cultural Center. I was like, yeah, I should. Hit up Francis, and she says, I have 4 days available, not 5. So the Saturday was already booked for like a wedding. So I was like, damn, we're recording Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Where we gonna be here Saturday? So that's when we reached out to Felix Jones, like, yo, can we record at the mansion? So we literally had 18-hour days every day.
Wow.
18-hour days. And 6 studios, each room was named after a business. But I mean, it was just, that's an amazing experience. Just to see, not even just seeing record, just to see smiles.
Mm-hmm.
Like I ain't never seen so many artists happy. Like just
Joy.
happy. Yeah, just joy. Recorded, shut down. So we got 143 songs that we just sitting. How we gonna narrow it down? So with what's crazy is with the release of Invisible Man, I was like, oh, we just got to get on Zoom. So we had a committee of producers and engineers and some artist execs, and literally from March when we recorded to probably like June, July, we were on Zoom probably at least 2-3 times a week, just chopping it down through Zoom. Like literally just shared. All the music was on Google Drive, and I just shared my sound. And everybody brought their headphones, and like we just went through every song and talked through them and figure out which tier they were gonna be in. Like hell no, like potentially making the album, definitely making the album, and just chopped it down. While that's happening, you know, I work for the Bob Dylan Center. Bob Dylan's publicist is Larry Jenkins. Larry Jenkins, it used to be president CEO of Sony Records in the 90s. And I knew he was a consultant with the center. I was like, yo, can I get a meeting with Larry? Talk to Larry, send him just roughs. The music hasn't been mixed, mastered, just literally the recordings from the weekend. He's in tears. He's like, yo, Ethiopia's gonna love this. I'm like, who the hell is Ethiopia? And he's like, she's the president CEO of Motown. So like 2 weeks later, we on the call with Motown execs. They're like, yo, we wanna do a licensing deal and we wanna distribute it through Black Forum. So Black Forum was a kind of subsidiary company that Berry Gordy started like in the 60s during the Civil Rights Movement. So like Martin Luther King was signed, Nikki Giovanni was signed. Like they literally just take their speeches or their poems, put them on vinyl and sell them.
Wow.
Hasn't been in existence since 1973. So literally Motown was like revamping Black Forum in 2021 finally on Africa was gonna be the first project, which it was. So we signed the deal. Larry called me again and was like, what did he say? Hey, I've been in this music industry. I know how these labels work. They're slow. And you all need an independent publicist, like outside of the label. I was like, all right, who you got?
Yeah.
And he said, look up Yvette Noel Shore and call me back. So get on Google, type in her name, shit starts to populate. I look, I'm like, nah, I spelled her name wrong. I do it again, same shit pops up. I immediately get on the phone, I call Larry, I'm like, Larry, this white man. I said, Larry, how the fuck are we gonna get Beyonce's posters?
Shut up.
He said, so he goes, so he tells a story when he was president and CEO of Sony in the 90s. He gets a call randomly one day, and it's Yvette, and they don't know each other. She's from Grenada. So obviously her accent, she was like, I'm supposed to be reviewing Mariah Carey's album, and I need that shit now. Like, calls him.
Whoa.
And he literally stops and says, cool, would you like to be Mariah Carey's publicist? So came Mariah Carey's publicist, Whitney Houston, Prince. So when Prince died, passed away, she was in the airport and like literally was writing a press release. Just imagine seeing your press release like on all the screens. At least she was publicist for John Legend, Destiny's Child, Beyonce, Chloe and Halle. So like everything you've seen from Beyonce's career from start, like as a teenager, like Yvette has been there from the Lemonade album to the Disney, from the Coachella, Ivy Park, like she manages overseas, all that, the NDAs, like, all that. So
that's amazing.
So I'm like, how we gonna get her? He said, don't worry about it. I'm like, all right. 2 weeks later, we're on a call. And I'm just like, look, I got one chance to get Beyonce's posters. This is how God works. So I get on a call, and Larry introduces me. I'm about to literally start talking. And Yvette just says, Dr. View, I'm gonna let you know, the answer's already yes. I'm gonna let you present, but it's already yes. So that's kind of when like shit just got real. Like, signed with Motown, got Yvette on the team, and yeah, it just got crazy. Like life was like literally the top of 2021, life was just a blur, and it was a good time, like really good time. So everything leading up, like I'm on calls with Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, Audio Mac, SoundCloud. Like we had a meeting with Lena Waithe in relation to the documentary at one point. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it was just so much happening at once. And released the album May 28th, and that's when shit went left. Like shit went like left after that.
Okay, before we get there, back when you were in undergrad and doing your dissertation, did you ever imagine?
So it's no, hell no, no. But what's crazy is I remember being in my prospectus, and they kicked me out the room, and they brought me back, gave me my feedback, and they said, "Don't forget about us when you go to the Grammys." And I was just like, whatever. But like we were close. we were damn near close. So
I know y'all had like Grammy eyes on y'all.
Yeah.
And just to go back for a second, can you just briefly like explain what the mission of Fire in Little Africa was? Like, what did you want that album to do?
Philo was an education idea, by far. Like the whole Motown, everything. It was never about that. It was about what is the most effective way to educate people on what happened 100 years ago, and from a local standpoint. Like obviously, all the different documentaries that came, all the people who came to Tulsa.
Right.
No one gave money, but that's a whole other conversation. But like, how can I carve space so that the localized voices, the descendants of Black Wall Street, are able to speak like their truth? Like, that was it. And educate. Like, using archives. Like, we went to TU. I talked to Mark Carlson, and he opened up like all the photos and talked about the relationship between Sarah Page and Dickie Rowland, and just all these different questions that a lot of people had prior to recording that helped us like formulate what the story and how the flow of the album was going to even come about. But yeah, I never thought it would go to that place. Like, just even how I put it together, like the album, the documentary, the curriculum, the podcast. It was just like, how can I meet people where they're at? And how can I utilize this platform to educate them on what happened, but like where we're at. Like, we're still here, like we're still the roads in the concrete, still praying and hoping that like we'll get the resources and the opportunities to like do what we do. But like at the core of it, it was just a commemorative album to educate. That was the only thing.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you said album releases, shit goes left.
Yeah.
And I think your story is like, what happened with that is why I'm part of this series is talking about Black and brown artists and the funding from non-Black and brown people and kind of the conflict that exists between like putting out the art that you want to put out, but not feeling like it can be too abrasive because what if they, so kind of talk to that, like how does shit go?
So I mentioned the information sessions that we had. One of the, if not the last question, one of the last questions in the last session was by Reed Quincy. And I remember like it was just, he said, what would be censored? That was the question. And everybody knew what he was talking about.
Right.
And I remember my boss at the time, he got up and said, he didn't say, isn't this? He said, ain't this hip hop?
Okay. Got it.
He said, ain't this hip hop? So it was it was understood that like anything goes.
Right.
Including y'all.
Yeah.
Including y'all gonna get this work. So, boom, album is released. I'm exhausted. Like, I'm on every call. I'm clearing samples. Like, I'm doing everything.
And you have a wife and a child. So.
I asked for, like, album comes out on May 28th. My anniversary is June 6th. Wedding anniversary. So I told Motown, I told Yvette, I told FEMA, yo, I'm gone for 3 days. Like, there's 60 artists.
Right.
Y'all can figure it out for the next 3 days. So me and my wife celebrate 6 years at the time to come back, and I'm summoned to my office. I'm like, all right. So first question is asked is, hey, are you leaving? I'm like, no, I just came back from vacation. Why do you ask? And he said, well, I'm just asking because I know you've been making a lot of connections with folks in the industry, and so it was just some assumptions. So I felt the way, but I just kept it going. So, mind you, Shining was released. Elevator was released. I wouldn't have any issues with either one of those videos. And the next record that was going to be released was Reparations. So I'm talking to supervisor, and then at the end of it, I say, hey, like, pull out my phone, and I show him Reparation video. I said, this is coming down the pipeline. I'm just being honest.
Right,
like,
I'll let you know.
It's coming down. And he says, yikes. But he said, if I have to get in front of the board, GKFF, and articulate why this video needs to come out, then I will. So again, it's understood. I've been transparent with you. This is where interest convergence comes into play. So the way it works is Motown really doesn't have control of itself. Motown is controlled by Universal. Universal controls Motown, Republic, and Capitol, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
So anytime you submit anything, paperwork, videos, whatever, you're not really sending it to Motown, you're sending it to the business affairs of Universal. So videos have to be submitted 3 weeks prior to release. There's certain people have to sign off. If there's people in the video, they have to sign off. If there's a mural in the video, you got to get the person who created it to sign off saying that we can have it in there. It's a lot of stuff. We submit the video 3 weeks in advance of the release. We're on call for Motown every week, me and Chris Davis. And we're asking like, yo, what's the status? Anything we need to do? Any paperwork? Everybody said, oh, it's fine. It's fine. We get to the week before. And I'm like, what's the fucking status of reparation video? And the representative of Motown says, Ethiopia. Now the chairwoman of Motown is going to call you. I was like, yeah, this ain't good.
Yeah.
And she came to Tulsa.
I remember meeting her.
Came to Tulsa. So she calls me. She says, Dr. View, I apologize, but we have to whitelist the video.
And what does whitelist mean?
So whitelist means that you all can release the video at your own discretion, but you gotta take the Motown logos off.
Okay.
I said, okay. You could have told me that 3 weeks ago,
Right.
because it's not about y'all. That was a conversation. But I also said, why? Interest convergence. Universal was going through an IPO. So they were sifting through their materials, i.e. black music. Motown was public enemy #1 because they're worried about the music and the messaging could affect the people who invest in Universal.
I see.
So when we submitted a video, that's
that video with that.
So when we depict on a mayor lookalike in the trunk of a car, they're like, hell no. But we knew that was a possibility. We had 4 different variations of the video. We took the initial clip out. With the MSNBC clip that was originally there, we took that out. We blurred people's faces. We screwed people's voices, like everything. They still said no. They just wanted no parts. So I'm like, okay, cool. Whitelist the video. Don't care. It ain't about y'all. We're gonna release this shit anyway. Because you have to think context too. HR 40 bill, case for like national case for reparations was picking up. Tippy Crutcher, Greg Robinson, Chief, some others went to the Capitol with survivors, talked to VP Harris, and I believe Biden.
I think Biden too.
They came to Tulsa.
Yeah.
We were scheduled to be on the Breakfast Club. We actually went to New York. We were scheduled to be on the Breakfast Club. Myself, Steph Simon, Donald Tone, St. Thomas.
With Charlemagne?
With Charlemagne.
What?
Like, that's where Yvette had scheduled for us. So we're like, yo, like
this is about to take off.
It's about to take off.
Real.
It's about to
Breakfast
take off.
Club is like black culture.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not even just a video. Like, we're going to actually like articulate this shit. Like, so we were always just ready to go. But I'm all about transparency, so I go back to my boss and say, hey, like, I didn't ask for permission. I said, we're moving forward with this video. This is what happened, we're moving forward. He comes back and says, I think we need to get our legal team involved. So it was literally that moment. Like, as soon as he said that,
yeah.
I was like, I'm the scapegoat. Like, I just said it. I said scapegoat. I knew I was going to be I knew I was about to experience like some shit, and I did. So you gotta think, that video had majority of the artists in it.
In it, yeah.
Like, I was there.
I mean, it was like a party.
It was lit.
On the North too.
And so when people start to question, like, yo, why's the video not coming out? Like, what's happening? What's going on? Like, somebody had to blame somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm the liaison between the record label, the foundation, both multi-billion dollars, Find Little Africa, and the community, like, the views from.
Yeah.
So literally the word was, View doesn't, the video isn't coming out because View doesn't want to lose his job. That was word on the street. Yeah. So video didn't come out originally. It was leaked. They ended up paying for another video. We spent almost $25,000 on the original. And they were like, oh yeah, we'll just give you another 20.
Since you're just giving out tens of thousands of dollars.
That's when the camera roll gets back. Like, I really just started questioning and started like getting loud and asking, started holding people accountable for this. Like, literally, this was an organic project.
Right.
That 2 years in the making, that no one expected that it would get to this level. And
right.
It did. And it just felt like control and power. It was literally we don't need this thing to get any bigger than what it is. The Bob Dylan Center is opening up. We need to be focused on that.
See, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, so they ended up taking Philo away from me. So I was hired as manager of education. So imagine, I'm the one who brokered the deal to get Charlie Wilson on the album.
Yeah, and in the video.
I couldn't go to LA when they shot the video.
They shot it in LA?
They shot it in LA.
Oh, I thought they shot it in Tulsa.
Mm-hmm. They went to LA and shot it.
You couldn't go?
I couldn't go. I had to give school tours at the Woody Guthrie Center.
Give school tours? Anybody could have given a school tour. The receptionist tour.
Yeah.
That's a slap in the face, dude.
They took it away.
Ain't this hip hop? That's what you said, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, it became unhealthy. Like, my blood pressure was through the roof. I think it was like the highest it was 170 or like 110.
Stevie, that's like one in a great type of
No, seriously. Like, I caught COVID twice. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, it was like literally being here and just like, okay, like, we're ready to pull the plug.
Pop people in.
Yeah, and it just created the strife amongst like the group, like, because people had questions, and I felt like me and my role was like I had to decipher what was important to tell and what was important to hold on to.
Right.
Because some stuff is just, some people didn't need to know. So yeah, like they literally took Philo away, and I just decided, like, yo, like, if this is how y'all see me or want to see me, like, 'cause you definitely see me.
Yeah.
But if you feel like you believe that I'm too big, or then I just part ways.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what happened. I just really stuck to. I reminded myself of why I decided to move to Tulsa.
Yeah. And
it was always about to educate, to inspire, and to create a new way for people to like live. Yeah. And they didn't respect that. And so I left. And it's just weird now, like, even to this day, it's like they're still in certain areas trying to find a way to get me back. But it's just more like, yeah. I actually had somebody come to my house.
Really?
To like ask questions like, what do you want? Like, what do you, yeah.
I want to release the video.
No, honestly, right now, I want Philo, because I don't own the rights to it.
Okay.
So the stipulation was that they would fund it and then they would have the rights to it. But now the conversation is like, Fila is going to park in the next couple of months, and there will be no artist doing anything on this platform that you all are benefiting from.
Yeah.
So either you give it to me and Steph and the rest of the committee, or
it's gonna be collecting dust.
Absolutely.
And it makes me think of two things. First of all is like how these historically white organizations are so thirsty to recruit us, and then in the name of DEI, but they also want to like keep us in a box. Like, we want your black face, but like don't be too loud.
Or we want your skill set, but we don't want you to do it in relation to this.
Right, and as it relates to your own community, like give us your skill set as it will push our institution forward. But as soon as you try to like push your own agenda forward, or even do anything with your community that will put them on a pedestal, like whoa. And then two, it makes me think of like how fake Tulsa is, because the whole year 2021 leading up to it, right? It was like it was a celebrity fest, right? Like who's going to be here in Tulsa? And like you said, no one left money. They completely took from the community. But it's almost like it turned into almost a celebration. Like, we're celebrating 100 years post massacre, and it seemed like Fila was kind of for them to be like, here's what we did, but then also like June 2nd, all right, like go on somewhere with that. Like, we're moving on, you know.
For real.
And so and that's how I feel like Tulsa operates, right? It's like it's like Smallville. Like, I feel like on the outside you see these pretty cut out cardboard homes, but behind it it's like desolate bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of like, it's not until you get here and like plant roots here that you're like, oh no, like they are so backwards out here in a way. So
I went to South by Southwest, and I really said no. I only went because the artist asked me to go. Like, I feel like I had failed.
yeah.
Like it really was. It was the peak of like Grammy nominations and like all this just dope, amazing like shit that was coming out of the pipeline. And I just felt like me resigning. I was like, man, like I know I need to take care of myself.
Yeah.
But like right now, like it just felt like life truly was like throwing me for a loop. But I think what was happening was like it was never supposed to get that big in the first place.
It wasn't.
It was never supposed to get that big in the first place. And I had to remind myself, like, this is my project. Like, this is not a situation where the foundation said, oh yeah, we want you to create this compilation project. Like, I brought this. So, yeah, I had to learn to, like, be kind to myself. Because it was just a real stressful time.
It's almost like kind of good that I'm not gonna say it's good that it happened, but like imagine if you had stayed there and that something like that never would have happened, and like you would have just been getting used. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it sucks that it happened, but also it gave you the opportunity to see this organization for who they really are, and to know not to do another thing for them. You know what I'm saying? Or at least if you do it in a way where like you're protected, in a way like, I'll do it, but I own the rights to this. Like, y'all don't own nothing but the money you're giving me to do the project. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And I also think like, wow, y'all afraid of Fila? You haven't seen like Fila is just like that's one idea. Like, it's like,
yeah,
I got so much more like to offer, and I'm a student. Like, I'm a lifelong learner. So like, me picking up an OOHRP book and listening to these samples, and I'm flipping to my album from my mom. Like, it's, my ideas and creativity just goes to a different level. So like, I'm not, even if I don't get Fila, it's like, okay,
yeah,
I want to create something else. Like,
10 other Filas.
I'm going to Harvard. Like, who knows what's gonna come from that situation? On top of the fact, like, I plan to bring the whole squad. Like, no one, to my understanding, has ever performed at Harvard. Like, any fellow, nobody. To my understanding, I could be wrong. But like, what would it look like for North Tulsa, Black Wall Street, to go to the first institution
Right.
that our ancestors built. Like,
Yeah.
like that's needed.
So so tell us about Harvard.
So I'm going to Harvard in January, 6 months. They have the Hutchins Center, which is African American Studies, has the W.E.B. Du Bois Research Institute. So I believe there's 23 fellows in the institute, and there's different fellowship programs underneath it. So mine in particular is the Nasir Jones Nas Hip Hop Fellowship, and it's an international fellowship program. So each fellow, they have a seminar every week. Each fellow gets to present their work, whatever they submitted for the application. So my goal is to not only perform my presentation, but to develop like week-long programming. So it's like a field takeover, like field university takeover, where I'm gonna do some collaborations with like obviously the Hutchins Center, but like the Kennedy School of Government, and some other areas. I'm also planning to bring Solid Foundation, Preparatory Arts Academy.
Yeah.
They have an orchestra program. The students will be a part of the performance. So while they're there, they'll obviously do the performance, but we'll develop workshops for the kids so that they get to be exposed to different things. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the impact. That's what I've always like wanted to do. Just like, yeah, I could be a DJ, I could be a producer, and that's great. But like what am I doing with that? Like, and how am I able to showcase more of my thought process, not by just talking, but just action. Like, and so yeah, like that's the goal, just to go down there and like I'll be there for 6 months. But yeah, just getting the squad there. You get a film screening or the documentary. I'm trying to do a fireside with Cornel West, since he's from Tulsa. Mm-hmm. Even though he probably hates Harvard right now because of the whole tenure thing, but I'm working. And the beauty of it is, Henry Louis Gates is over the program, and he's doing a project now with the remaining survivors from the massacre to track their lineage as of right now. So it may be just some, I don't know, I maybe go up there, it just may be just some, I don't know if I can deal with Boston, but yeah, this is the first time in my life, like, I don't know what's next. And it's hella, it becomes anxious when you got people who depend on you. Yeah. But I'm also just looking forward to something new. Like, I'm constantly giving myself to people, and I've never really taken time for myself and just like, how can I make myself better? Like a creative artist, scholar, like, will I ever be able to teach? Yeah. Like, yeah. Like, I actually have to talk to you about that. Remind me. Okay, cool. But yeah, like I needed, I don't think I knew I needed that experience, but I know I need it now. Yeah. Particularly with like the things I'm working on, just like the Tidy Project, getting involved with like blockchain, NFTs, like there's a real opportunity to like provide some financial freedom for creatives. Not even just the artists that you know, like for yourself, like this project alone, like it's just so much value that we bring each and every day, and like for people to be able to understand what that space is like and how we can truly, people talk about reimagining, like Web3 is the reimagination. Yeah. Like, and having the language, the expertise, and the knowledge, as well as like these terrible experiences with the industry and nonprofits of the world, like I'm gonna be in a good place regardless of what happens. Yeah. So I think just to wrap this up and to make this like a full circle moment, sure. What does it mean for you to be I mean, we started this interview talking about your mother and how instrumental she was as like a hip hop feminist
and as your introduction to hip hop. So now what does it mean in this full circle moment to be creating a hip hop album as an homage to your mother?
I can't lie, it's the hardest shit. Like, I think it's hard, like the album itself is hard, but like, it's hard because it's your mom and you want it to be perfect, even though that's not a thing. And there's just so many like sub themes and things that you just want to connect, but it's so much fun. It's making me. It's reminding myself that like young Stevie is always been there. I just never carved out space for him. Cause I don't know how much I told you, but like it's a game. It's a basketball. Like the album is a basketball game.
Oh.
Yeah. So really quick, my mom holds the national high school assist record to this day. High school assist record. And all she wanted to do was play for Pat Summitt at University of Tennessee. And it didn't happen because her coach held all her letters.
Her coach did what?
Held all her letters. So interest convergence, right? He broke a deal with an institution, I'm not gonna say it. It's a D1 institution. And they said if you can get Mary Johnson to sign, you can become the head basketball coach. So, and I don't know if you've seen the Women of Troy documentary.
Mm-hmm.
This is around the same time. Louisiana Tech, right down the street from my hometown. Tennessee, USC. Like, my mom was supposed to be playing with Cheryl Miller and Cynthia Cooper. Like, literally, they were 1 year before her, before she graduated.
Those are greats.
My mom was supposed to be there.
Wow.
Yeah, so when I think about like Cynthia Cooper's trajectory, like going overseas, like that would have been mom. Like, and she would have came back and potentially played in the WNBA, and like Mary Johnson could be Cynthia Cooper in a 4P, like for all I know.
Wow.
So I'm like, it pains me, but it's also like, my mom never questioned that.
Mm-hmm.
She just like, it's just what I gotta do. And then I come into the world and it's like, it's all about you. And like, and this is just a story I just found out.
Wow.
And I got tape now. I found some tape with my mom playing. So it's just, there's so many like layers to the story that I'm still like unpacking, like to this day. But to answer your question, like, I don't think Fila compares to Tidy. Like, I don't think Invisible Man compares to Tidy. I think you'll cry more.
Oh, don't tell me.
Because it's not just men on the project.
Yeah.
It's Jericho's of the world on the project. It's G's Mino on the project.
And just to know it's about your mom, I think that knowing that sentimental.
And it's like it's my mom, but it's like it's a black mother's story.
Yeah, we can all relate.
We can all relate to it, even if it's sports, but like we can relate to like fuck niggas or like a job not treating you right or like having to try to take better care of yourself or like fucking Supreme Court doing whatever. Like this is, and it's also like it's my production and I'm not rapping. So now I'm getting to understand the artists and their relationship with their mothers in relation to this project. So Tidy becomes like a universal language in a sense. Like it's just, yes. This is the one.
Okay.
This is the one.
Any thoughts on when it's dropping?
Mother's Day next year.
Okay.
Mother's Day next year.
Perfect.
So it didn't happen this year.
Okay.
For a plethora of reasons. But May 12th, 2023, Mother's Day weekend, it's going to be amazing. And I haven't told too many people, it's going to be a film music series. Okay. So think of Lemonade and Insecure together.
Now you're speaking.
So think like,
okay.
think of, so it's 14 tracks and there'll be a visual for each song.
Oh my God.
But it's going to be released, like the people won't know that they're experiencing now,
Mm-hmm.
but they will. So literally every week I'm gonna drop a video.
Oh my gosh, Steve.
As if it's like a TV series, and then do like a recap with the artists and the filmmakers, like Insecure would do after an episode.
Yeah.
Do a recap, like on the last episode of Tidy.
Yeah.
And it shows like a recap, and it goes in, and every visual is connected to the next.
Your projects just become grander and grander after every project. And you know what? It makes me feel all tingly inside to know that I was rocking with you from the garage on Thursday nights. From the garage on Thursday nights to Tidy. To see that evolution. And to know that that's just like, we're still at the tip of the iceberg, right? Like, there's still so much below the surface. It's just like, I'm just really grateful to you, and I'm grateful to know you. And I'm grateful to be inspired by you, because I don't know if you know this, but I had a conversation with you around the time we were looking for jobs. And you were talking about the whole nonprofit sector. And you were like, maybe we can be the folks that kind of make this thing a thing. Like, instead of going into academia, going into nonprofits. And I remember that conversation, and that is really what got my wheels spinning on like, what are some nonprofits here? How can we get funding from these sources? So I think that, I'm not gonna say I think, you are really like a source of inspiration for a lot of people. And I don't even think you realize it. It's just you like being authentically yourself and just saying what's on your mind. That inspires people. And so I'm just grateful to you. And
I'm gonna let you listen to some after this. And
I'm just gonna put on record, I'm still just out my mind on the mix you did. What was it? Kirk Franklin's. Was it Stomp?
Stomp. Yeah.
You went from Stomp to Juvenile's Back That Ass Up, and I don't think no one will ever mix. Like, no one will ever make me feel the way you made me feel. I was like, he just went from gospel to Back That Ass Up. Oh my God. And it was so
every
smooth.
time people be like so confused. They be like, what do I do? Do I move right now?
I'm like, I'm twerking
do I
for
pray?
Jesus.
Do I repent?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I, for one, you're going to be at AURA for Chicago next year, right?
Yeah, I got to get my house game up. Got to be ready. Chicago ain't going to play.
Well,
Chicago ain't going to play.
I don't even think I'm going to try to present, but I'm going to go simply because of Black and Brown. Like, well, I'm going to go party.
You know what? I really F with the Black and Brown folks in AURA. That was not supposed to happen this year.
I remember.
Literally Thursday.
It was like a week out.
No, it was 2 days.
Well, I remember you posted something on Facebook like a week out. Like,
yes.
You were like, what's going on with Black and Brown? And we were like, what is going on with Black and Brown, Stevie? And then it was like, from there, like, I remember
they're trying to give it to me. They're trying to give it to me.
I'm surprised it's not yours already. Well, okay. Thank you. Do you have anything else to add before we sign off?
No, I appreciate this. I think when I think of oral histories, I'm like older folks, like who have so much like experience. But I'm like, man, I feel like we're a generation that has seen, we've seen the Nintendos and the Super Nintendos and Segas and the PlayStations and the technology and the World Wide Web, and it's evolved, and like going to therapy, like we're really trying to like, we are the bridge. I would really say like our generation is the bridge of like making shit better.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're doing this like right now is like really critical, and I think about my son when I think about stuff like this, just like we're gonna be in the same house, and he's gonna listen to me here and there. But like it's gonna be stuff like this that he's gonna look at like, I had no fucking clue, like no clue. So yeah, I'm just grateful.
I think we discount how much wisdom we really have because we have lived through and seen a lot, and we think because we're so young that we don't have much to offer, but it's like, no, we have a lot of knowledge. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Stevie, for taking time out and speaking with me today. And we will end on that note.